Hello, my friends. Hello, and welcome once again to Stately Vaughan Manor, where Roger and I have returned to talk about reading speed. We're talking about reading speed today, Roger. I'm talking about it anyway. Roger, he just doesn't care. Doesn't care how fast he reads a book. You don't care, Roger. And I used to not care either, to be fair. Back before I was on BookTube, I didn't care how fast I read a book. I didn't have any. Well, the only reading goal I had, I've always had one reading goal, and that is to read every day. That's it. Read every day. Doesn't matter what I'm reading or how fast I read it. Just read every day. That's it. And I actually, with that reading goal, got through quite a few books. But I never paid any attention to how many books I was reading a year. Just as long as I was reading and I was enjoying what I was reading. And it didn't matter how fast I read these books. Like, it took me forever to read Les Mis. It took me weeks to read that book. But I loved that book, so it didn't matter. And the same thing with The Count of Monte Cristo. That took a long time to read too. That's a big book. Again, didn't matter how long it took me to read it. I enjoyed it. I was sorry when it was over. But yeah, back in the olden days, it didn't matter. It didn't matter how fast I read a book. But then I got on BookTube, and suddenly I felt like I should read more and read faster because I was spending a lot of time talking about books. And it was helpful just to get through books faster than I had before. But I found some difficulty in doing this because I think, like a lot of people, I had a comfortable rate of speed to read. It was faster than if I were reading aloud, but I had a comfortable rate of speed where I could read a book and comprehend it and enjoy it. I had a rate of speed that was not as fast as apparently a lot of booktubers on BookTube, because some booktubers get through piles of books in an almost supernatural rate. To this day, I don't know how many of my booktubers do it, my fellow booktubers do it, but they manage, man. But even when I was on BookTube for a while, I had a hard time reading faster, changing my rate of speed, because I was just too comfortable at the rate I was at. But then, Roger, the terrible 500 book challenge happened, and now suddenly I have a real motivation to read faster. Otherwise, this challenge I'm on, which is the 500 book challenge I have to read 500 books that I own before I'll buy any new ones. That was a real motivation. Suddenly, I had to read faster because I had to get through more books. And my problem is that I don't have a ton of reading time. I have, in the morning, probably an hour and a half, an hour to an hour and a half. Sometimes it's somewhere around there. Not today, because I film in the morning as well when I do videos. So those days I don't even have that. But usually during the week, I have about an hour and a half maybe. In the evening, I have about an hour or so, Roger, but I'm subject to interruption in the evening. So I'm tired, for one thing. And yes, I'm very much subject to interruption because the lady of the manor doesn't care if I'm reading a book, if she wants to say something or tell me something, give me some vital bit of information. She doesn't care if I'm reading a book. She'll just talk to me, Roger. It's strange. But she will just talk to me. There were other interruptions that happen, in the evening. So not a ton of time there, but there is some time. I tend to catch up on the weekends, but again, on my days off, I have a bunch of other stuff I need to do that I've been putting off all week, But that's when I tend to catch up. So, And that's kind of always been the case. So I actually, to get through more books, since I haven't been able to actually carve out more time during the day because there is no time to be had, I actually had to increase the speed that I go through books, which would be sort of like, it's sort of the same thing as if you were to watch a video at 2 or 3 times speed, or listen to an audiobook at 2 or 3 times speed, which I don't think I could do, because, you know, then everybody just sounds like chipmunks or something. It doesn't sound natural. So I don't mind if people do that, but I don't do that myself. But when it comes to reading, I found that I could push the speed of how fast I read a book up. And at first, when I tried to do that, I would fall back to my comfortable rate of speed. Like, for a while, I had to use a fair amount of effort to read faster and comprehend it. And I would just naturally, during the course of reading, I would just fall back to my regular rate of speed. And so I had to really try to read faster. And I would give it up for a while and say, you know what, I'm just not going to worry about it. But of course I do worry about it because, you know, I have too many books to read. So I would just practice at that. And so at this point, I don't know how many pages an hour I read or anything like that. And I'm not sure it would really be accurate because all pages are different, Roger. They all have different, there's always a different amount of text on the page. So I don't know how many pages I read an hour, but a lot more than I did, say, a year or two ago. And at this point, I've discovered that now reading fast is my new comfortable rate of speed, because I've just trained myself to do it. And it's not super fast, but it's a lot faster than I used to. And the most important thing is, am I comprehending what I'm reading? Am I enjoying what I'm reading? Is it as good an experience as it was when I read a bit slower? Yes, I think it is. And this is, if you're a reader who's a real reader who goes through books, I think that's something that's completely doable. But as to why you would do it, is it an important thing to do? I think the only reason it would be is if you had some real motivation. Like, are you a professional book critic? Or do you review books professionally? For example, that would be a good reason. Are you an editor? If you were a book editor or a magazine editor, yeah, reading fast is just something you're going to do. Or if you're on BookTube, you know, and you want to get through books quickly so you can talk about more books on your channel. Even then, I'm not sure how important it is. Most of us who are on BookTube have had a lifetime of reading books, and there are plenty of books that we can talk about. Again, I'm not so sure it's that important for most people. But if you're on one of these read what you own type challenges, yeah, it becomes more important to read more. And it is entirely possible to train yourself to just read faster by putting out an initial effort until eventually your rate of speed will increase in your reading, and that becomes your new natural rate of speed. It does take a bit of effort, though. It takes a little bit of effort and motivation. I had plenty of motivation, so I did it. And I'm wondering, or I have been wondering, if I will ever slip back into a slower rate of speed, say after the 500 book challenge is over, when I have no longer a motivation to tear through books. Well, for me, it's tearing through a book. For me, getting through, say, a book a week is really fast for me traditionally. Now, I need to get through 2 or 3 books a week. That for me is fast. There are other booktubers out here who read the equivalent of a book a day. You know, that still seems to me, yeah, it's almost a supernatural accomplishment. They must be using magic, Roger. There's no other possibility. But for me, 2 or 3 books a week on average is pretty good. And I'm able to do that now fairly comfortably. Of course, it depends on how big the book is. It took me a lot longer than that to read It by Stephen King, which is the last really big book that I've read. It will probably be the last really big. Well, no, because I've got next month I've got Varney. I've got the second half of Varney to read. So there's that. It's a good thing I'm reading faster, Roger. But in the future, will I ever fall back to a slower rate of speed? I don't know, because now I feel I'm reading at a faster rate and I feel comfortable doing that. So who knows? Eventually, you know, it won't matter when I no longer have a challenge to worry about. And eventually, I suppose I won't be on BookTube anymore. Eventually, YouTube will probably vanish like all good things tend to do. Who knows? Who knows? But I think for now, I've pretty much trained myself to read faster and to get through books faster. And it is a very possible thing to do if you put your mind to it. But why would you do that? I think you need a good reason. You know, otherwise, just read like you always did. As long as you're if you're comfortable at your rate of speed, if you're enjoying the reading experience, I guess it really doesn't matter. It certainly never mattered to me. It's just something I was thinking about. Sometimes we just think about things, Roger. Well, I do. Roger had his brain taken out of his nose and put in a jar, so he doesn't think about things as deeply as I do. Right, Roger? But anyway, I'll shut up. I'll shut up now. I clearly need coffee, Roger. I clearly need coffee, and then I have to go and do work and stuff. Okay, guys, I will catch you next time when I actually talk about a book. I'll actually talk about a book next time, Roger. I will see you then.